The story of the 1987 Salt Lake City Trappers of the Pioneer League is the ultimate story of outcasts and underdogs. Despite being the only unaffiliated club in their league, the undrafted unit of misfits rattled off 29 consecutive wins in the summer of '87, a record in all of professional baseball. They did so by bullying Dodgers and Giants draftees with their excellent offensive numbers, capturing the hearts of mainstream American sports fans along the way, and tying one on at Duffy's Pub down the street from Dirks Field after every home game. The lore of these no-name players actually intersects with an amalgam of household names, like 5% owner Bill Murray. Interestingly enough, the Trappers groundskeeper had an identical disposition to Murray's character Carl Spackler from Caddyshack. He even slept next to the lawnmower. There was also fellow owner and current LA Angels owner Arte Moreno, musical guest turned first base coach Huey Lewis, Max Patkin, the Clown Prince of baseball, and allegedly Mick Fleetwood of Fleetwood Mac fame. This story often feels like it was written for a Hollywood movie, like an alternate version of Bull Durham set in the Mountain West, but it's all too real, and there's even an '87 Trappers display at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown to show for it. The Salt Lake City Trappers story starts about 40 miles away in Ogden, Utah, where the Ogden A's, the AAA affiliate of the Oakland A's, began play in 1979. They only lasted 2 seasons, but did bear witness to 70 or so Rickey Henderson starts before his call-up. The A's were bought by the Edmonton Oilers owner Peter Pocklington in 1981 and moved to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where they picked up an affiliation with the Chicago White Sox and were named the Trappers. In 1982, Ron Kittle would hit 50 home runs for the Trappers, which still stands as a record across all affiliated minor leagues. He'd ride that momentum to hit 35 in the majors the next season, being named the 1983 AL Rookie of the Year. Primarily a designated hitter, Kittle also played for the Yankees, Indians, and Orioles, just in case you need to know that for your immaculate grid. The Trappers moved back to Utah and were not affiliated. Starting in 1985, they collected their first of 3 straight league championships, with the third being discussed in depth in this video. The Trappers would relocate to Pocatello, Idaho in '93, becoming the Pocatello Posse, before moving back to Ogden in '94, where all this mess began. They're the current-day Ogden Raptors, who are in the driver's seat in the Pioneer League's South Division. So you might be thinking, which is it? With those 3 consecutive championships, were the Trappers really underdogs, or was this essentially a good indie ball team beating up on rookie ball clubs? Given their success, it feels like it leans toward the latter of the two, but it's been noted that the team followed all league rules as far as what age their signees were, and that rostered players could not stay with the club for more than 2 seasons. So the way I see it, and it's kind of interesting because part owner and scout Van Schley, who handled most of the personnel decisions, ran the club as a sort of precursor to Billy Beane and the A's, making these Trappers an instance of Moneyball before Moneyball in the minor leagues. Funny enough, assistant coach Barry Moss would eventually become an actor and play in the film adaptation of Moneyball alongside Brad Pitt. Rather than going through the draft process like their counterparts in the league, Van Schley organized a series of tryouts in baseball hotspots, Florida, Texas, and Southern California. Ultimately, most of the players who made up the roster would have college experience from high pedigree programs, but just like in Moneyball, they'd be players who were seen as having a glaring defect, be it on or off the field. Here's a good example. Second baseman Anthony Blackmon, who was fresh off a College World Series appearance with Oklahoma State. But about that appearance, the headlines read, "Baseball player Anthony Blackmon of Oklahoma State apologized for dropping his pants and slapping his rear in response to racial taunts from fans at a game against Texas A&M in the NCAA Mid-East Regionals in Starkville, Mississippi last Monday. The NCAA had earlier suspended Blackmon for 2 games. Oklahoma State opened the College World Series in Omaha Friday with an 8-3 victory over Arizona State. The mark of a great coach, manager Gary Ward defended Blackmon in a press conference, stating, "That's the problem with bigots. There's not an appropriate way to respond to them." Both issued a public apology afterwards. When asked about the Trappers squad, manager Jim Gilligan said, "No manager gets the kind of players and personalities that I had on that '87 team. Jimmy Ferguson had that movie star smile, hit .329. And Colston, Well, I can't tell any of the stories about Frank that you can print, but he was a character and he led the league in hitting nearly 400 that year. All of the players brought some element of character and personality to the team. That was key to our team chemistry. This common thread that these players shared, being passed on or orphaned by other professional ball clubs, united and motivated them. The Trappers were also innovative in their signing of international players. Japanese pitchers Yasuhiro Hiyama and Koichi Ikeue were instrumental in team success during the '87 season. They were actually featured briefly on ESPN as seen here during 1986. Frank Colston, the starting catcher and leader of the squad, was said to habitually break curfew and consume enough alcohol for the entire team. One night, Jim Gilligan was supposed to meet up with part owner Steve Butterfield, busting Colston in the process when he arrived at the bar. Gilligan told Colston it'd be costing him a $500 fine, so he might as well get his money's worth. They stayed till last call, where, according to The Athletic, only Colston, Gilligan, and Butterfield remained, with the exception of Mick Fleetwood and a woman he was having a conversation with near the door. Gilligan shouted across the room, "Hey Mick, what did the Trappers do tonight? They won 5-3. He still chose to bench Colston the next day, but point taken, Colston never missed curfew again after that night. I believe this was game number 17 of the streak, a victory over the Medicine Hat Blue Jays. Dirks Field was one of the more lively single-A minor league stadiums to begin with, thanks to an exciting product on the field and some of the best game day promotions of its era, but the place hit another level when Bill Murray would arrive and pump up the crowd over the PA system. He wasn't always able to make it to games, but when he did, he gave it his all, working hard at the stadium, playing hard with the team at the pub after games, handing out celebratory beers. On July 20th, chasing win number 23 in Pocatello, they found themselves trailing 9-3 at the conclusion of the 6th inning, in a quiet stadium with a storm rolling in, far removed from a Bill Murray manufactured home field advantage. Anticipating a rainout where 6 innings would count as a game, the Pocatello Giants PA announcer proclaimed, "The streak is over, the streak is over," a cardinal sin of baseball superstition. Almost immediately, the rain and wind stopped, and a rainbow appeared over the Trappers' dugout. They battled back to win with an 8-run 7th, and home runs by Ferguson, Colston, and backup catcher Ed Citronelli. The Trappers would ultimately bat .320 that season. This Pocatello team would later travel to Salt Lake and be swept in what would become game number 27, 28, and 29 of the streak. A champagne celebration ensued with Max Patkin right in the center of it. He thanked Frank Colston for the best night of his career, a career that had put him on a first-name basis with nearly every legendary ball player in the book, including Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio. Not a single 1987 Salt Lake City Trapper would make it to the big leagues. Frank Colston would return home to Illinois and run a sports bar. But for one summer, everyone in America had a favorite minor league team, and what that team did can never be taken away. A quick note. I am aware that Bill Murray's in one of these situations where a bunch of people are coming out with varying allegations about him being this demeaning character that crosses the line and traumatizes his coworkers on set. I know something about this will be in the comments, and it should go without saying, but I don't condone anything he's been accused of, and if it ever becomes anything more in court, I've never condoned that. You just literally can't tell this story without mentioning Bill Murray. So that's what I did. Take it easy.